There once lived a girl named Zamani, the only daughter of Chief Ole, the wealthiest man in the thriving kingdom of Udolo. The land of Udolo was known far and wide for its gold mines, fertile earth, and a river so clear the moon would bow its reflection on it each night. And in the center of that splendor stood the palace of Chief Ole, gilded with carvings, protected by lion statues, and always bustling with servants carrying fresh fruit, folded fabrics, or secret messages for the council. Zamani had never known lack. From the time she was a child, golden bracelets tinkled on her wrists before she could even walk. Her hair was always adorned with the rarest shells, and her feet never touched bare soil, always carried in palanquins or shod in leather stitched by the finest craftspeople. And yet, she was lonely. The girls of her village feared her. The boys dreamed of her but dared not speak. Her smile, soft as calabash milk, was always returned with bows and stammers. The council whispered that she would marry a prince from one of the neighboring kingdoms. Her father hoped she would wed the son of General Taiwo to forge an alliance that would bring more power to the family name. But Zamani had other dreams, ones that bloomed quietly like the hibiscus at night. She believed love should not be a transaction. She longed for someone whose eyes would not flicker toward her necklace before her soul. And more than anything, she wanted to choose. Choose from the heart, not the throne. So, one warm evening, when the moonlight danced between the baobab trees and the fireflies began their nightly ceremony, Zamani made a decision that would shift the stars in her favor, or curse them forever. She would marry a poor man. Not out of rebellion, not out of mischief, but to test whether true love could live outside gold-covered gates. The next morning, she disguised herself in a simple wrapper, hid her jewelry beneath a woven satchel, and slipped out through the east gate, an exit few dared to use since it passed through the old village, where the poor, the farmers, and the forgotten lived. She walked through the market square where her name was often shouted by traders hoping for royal attention. Today, no one recognized her. Her head wrap was pulled low, her back slightly bent like a water carrier's. She listened. She observed. And that was where she saw him. His name was Toba. He sold carved spoons by the corner where the scent of fried plantain mixed with goat pepper soup. He was tall, his skin deep and unbothered by the sun. His hands were calloused, his fingernails darkened by work, but his voice, sounded like the first rains after Harmattan. He laughed with children. He gave a spoon to an old woman who had no money. And when a young boy tried to steal from his stall, Toba handed him food instead. Zamani watched him for days. Each time in different disguises. One day she was a fruit seller's assistant. The next, she helped sweep the front of a small cloth shop. Every time, her eyes returned to the boy who carved spoons with the patience of a monk and the smile of a sunrise. She had never seen such kindness without motive. Until one day, he noticed her. "You always pass this way," Toba said, wiping wood dust from his hands. "But you never buy anything." Zamani was caught off guard. I am saving for a spoon." "A good thing to save for," he smiled. "These spoons have heard many stories. A fine companion for stew and secrets." That made her laugh. And for the first time in her life, it felt like her laugh was hers, not the practiced chuckle of a chief's daughter. They talked. Not much. Just bits. About the weather. About how he learned to carve. About how her grandmother made stew with snails. It became a habit. Then a ritual. Weeks turned to months, and Toba became her escape. At night, she would return to the palace with dirt on her feet and joy in her chest. No one suspected. Her maids thought she visited the herbalist for moon blessings. Her father thought she was finally learning humility. One day, during a heavy rain, Toba gave her his only dry wrapper so she wouldn't walk home drenched. Zamani's heart cracked open. She knew then, she loved him. Not for his hands. Not for his voice. But because he gave without fear. And he never asked who she was. But soon, secrets grow heavy. Zamani decided to confess everything. She arrived early at his store, wearing a plain gown but no disguise. Her hair was loose. Her voice shook. She told him who she was. That her name was Zamani Ole. That she lived in the Golden Palace. That her guards carried spears carved from lion teeth. Toba was silent. She begged, "I didn't lie to you. I only hid parts. Because I wanted you to know me. Not the title. Just me." He looked at her for a long time, his eyes dark with thought. "I don't want your gold, Zamani," he finally said. "But I also don't know if I fit in your world." Zamani reached for his hand. "Then let me bring my world to you." The next day, she returned with a small gourd of cowries, her own savings. Not her father's. Not palace wealth. Just her own collection. She handed it to him. "With this, I ask you to be my husband." Toba blinked. "You're proposing to me?" "I am. As a woman of Udolo. As a woman of my own will." He took the gourd. He stared at it. Then he shook his head. "No." Zamani's heart dropped. He added, "I will not marry you with your wealth. If we are to be, let us build something together. Not begin with debt." She smiled. "Then let's build." But love stories really move without friction. Word soon reached the palace. Not from a spy or guard, but from the old woman to whom Toba had once gifted a spoon. She had seen Zamani kiss him behind the spice store. Her eyes, though aged, missed nothing. Chief Ole summoned his daughter. "You disgrace this household," he roared. "A woodcarver. Do you know how many kingdoms I've rejected for you?" "I do," Zamani said. "But I'd rather sweep floors with Toba than wear 10 crowns with a stranger." "You think love will feed you? Feed your children. Feed this kingdom." "I think love will teach us how to grow our own food," she replied. The chief, shaking with fury, sent word to Toba's home. His house was burned to the ground the next night. No one was harmed, only warned. The message was clear: stay away from the chief's daughter. Toba disappeared. Zamani cried for days. She searched every market, every village, even crossed the hills toward the Hunter's Valley. Nothing. Toba was gone. Her chest ached with silence. Her eyes grew heavy with regret. She returned to the palace, but not to rest, only to plan. One night, she left for good. No gold. No guards. Only a sack of clothes and her grandmother's prayer beads. She wandered from village to village, looking for him. Sleeping beneath trees. Selling woven grass mats. Asking every spoon seller, every sculptor, every stranger. Seasons passed. Her skin darkened from the sun. Her fingers roughened from labor. Her voice lost its silk, but gained strength. And then one day, deep in a village called Ijaba, where no palace roads reached, she heard a boy laughing. The same laugh that once echoed between market stalls and pepper baskets. She followed the sound. It led her to a small workshop near a river bend. Carved spoons hung from branches like ornaments. A man stood inside, teaching children how to shape wood. "Toba," she whispered. He turned. His eyes widened. Time held its breath. "Zamani." She ran into his arms. They said nothing for minutes. Only held each other. The river kept flowing. The children kept laughing. But in that embrace, something old was reborn. "I have nothing now," she whispered. "I have a workshop, he replied. That's something. They built a home from scratch. No gold. No servants. Just love, work, and rhythm. The villagers accepted them. Toba taught children how to carve. Zamani taught girls how to write and read. She planted a garden behind their hut. He built chairs from broken canoes. They grew together like vines on an old tree, firm, quiet, and permanent. Back in Udalo, Chief Ole's fortunes began to fade. Traders stopped visiting. Droughts came. His health waned. And his pride, his most precious treasure, became his heaviest burden. One evening, an old beggar arrived at Toba and Zamani's door. His clothes torn, eyes sunken. My child, he whispered. It was the chief. Zamani knelt. Baba. I was wrong, he said. I thought power was in gold. But I see now, true power lives in the people who survive when gold runs out. Zamani wept. She fed him. Toba gave him a chair. And the chief, for the first time in his life, sat without a throne. That night, he whispered to Zamani, you didn't lose anything. You found everything. But destiny wasn't done yet. In the heart of Ijaba was an old oracle, half blind, half mad, but always correct. When she saw Zamani and Toba passing by, she pointed her crooked finger and said, the river has chosen. The humble shall rule next. Zamani laughed. We don't need to rule anything. The oracle grinned. That's why you'll be loved. What neither of them knew was that the kingdom of Udalo, weary from years of drought and greedy rulers, would soon look for new leaders. Leaders who knew what it meant to work, to love, to lose, and to rebuild. And when that day came, the people would not choose a prince. They would choose the girl who gave up a palace for love, and the man who carved spoons with stories in them. And that, as all good tales go, was only the beginning. The days after the oracle's word spread faster than a brush fire in Harmattan. Word traveled across the village of Ijaba and beyond, like echoes carried on bird wings. Market women whispered it between baskets of yams. Hunters spoke of it as they sharpened their spears. And by the time the sun had circled the earth 3 times, a small group of elders from Udalo made the journey to the village where Zamani and Toba had quietly built their life. They came not with drums or fanfare, but with walking sticks, grey beards, and heavy hearts. These were the elders who had once sat in Chief Ole's court, now stripped of their titles by the winds of misfortune. They found Zamani tending to her garden and Toba sanding a wooden bench for the schoolyard. We have come, the elders said, his voice cracked like dry earth, not to beg, but to ask. Will you return to Udalo? Zamani looked up. Her fingers were dirty from the soil. Her back was sun-warmed and her feet bare. Why now? She asked softly. Because the people are tired. Tired of leaders who do not eat their food, fetch their water, or understand their songs. The river has slowed. The crops falter. We need hands that remember how to give. Toba stood beside her. He did not speak. But he placed his hand gently on hers, grounding her. Reminding her that love could walk beside duty, not behind it. They agreed, not because they desired power, but because they understood service. And so, they returned. But Zamani did not arrive at the palace in golden robes. She came with Toba by her side, the children of Ijaba following behind like a parade of hope. Her hair was wrapped in the cloth of the common folk. Her jewelry made from shells collected at the river's bend. Toba held no scepter, but in his arms was a stool he had carved for council meetings. The people of Udalo gathered in the square. Many gasped. Others wept. They remembered the girl who once rode palanquins and the boy who sold spoons. But now, they saw something new, a pair who had weathered storm and shame, and returned not for applause, but for healing. Zamani took no title. She declared herself not queen, but keeper of the people's heart. Toba became the master of hands, a leader who worked, built, and taught. They reopened the schools, restored the wells, and turned the palace gardens into public farms. In time, Udolo flourished again. Not with gold, but with peace. But change, even noble, has its trials. Not all welcome their rise. Some former nobles, stripped of influence, whispered in shadows. They claimed Zamani had bewitched the people. That Toba was too simple to lead. One day, during a festival, a masked man poisoned the council's drink. It was Toba who sensed the bitterness. He tipped the calabash into the fire, and the smoke turned green. Chaos erupted. Guards chased shadows. But the people saw. And they chose to stand. They formed a circle around Zamani and Toba, arms linked, voices united. You harm them, they said, you harm us. That night, under the full moon, an elder woman placed a carved necklace around Zamani's neck. Not made of gold, but wood. From our trees, she said, for our daughter. Years passed. Children grew. Toba taught them how to shape both wood and character. Zamani taught them how to speak with truth and grace. The palace was no longer a symbol of distance, but of gathering. A place where decisions were made with shared voices. One rainy season, when the river burst its banks and threatened to swallow the lower village, Zamani did not send orders. She grabbed buckets. So did Toba. So did the people. Together, they dug channels, rescued goats, and carried elders to safety. And when the flood subsided, they built stronger homes, together. One evening, as the stars blinked awake, Zamani sat with Toba by the river. Do you ever miss the quiet of Ijaba? She asked. He smiled. Sometimes. But I think we brought its spirit with us. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I think so too. In the years to come, songs would be written. Not of wars or conquest, but of the rich bride who chose a poor groom. Of how they planted love in hard soil and watched it bloom into a kingdom. A place where wealth was not measured in gold, but in shared laughter, healed wounds, and hands that held each other through every storm. And when they were old, with silver in their hair and grandchildren in their arms, Zamani would whisper to Toba before sleep, we found destiny, didn't we? And Toba would smile, kiss her brow, and say, we didn't find it. We built it. And the river, still bowing to the moon each night, would carry their story downstream, so every child who drank from its waters would know that true royalty is found not in crowns, but in character. Not in riches, but in the richness of love. And thus, the tale of Zamani and Toba became legend, not for what they ruled, but for what they restored. In the twilight of their lives, as the wind began to carry the scent of change once more, a new generation rose. The children Zamani and Toba had taught were now mothers, fathers, artisans, and keepers of dreams. The village of Udolo had grown beyond its borders, not in walls or armies, but in kindness and wisdom that stretched to distant lands. Travelers came not to marvel at riches, but to learn how a people, once divided by pride, found unity in humility. One of those travelers was a young woman named Iriti. Her sandals were worn from walking far, and her eyes held the fire of someone searching for something more than herself. She came asking for stories. For truth. For the roots of greatness that did not glitter. She found Zamani sitting beneath the Iroko tree, her cane resting beside her and her hair now fully silver. Toba was nearby, whittling a flute for their youngest grandchild. Are you the rich bride who gave it all away? Iriti asked, half joking, half awed. Zamani smiled and patted the bench beside her. No, child. I am the woman who learned that wealth is what remains after everything else is gone. And you? Ariti turned to Toba. Were you truly just a spoon seller? Toba chuckled. Still am. Only now, I carve spoons with stories. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the sun lower itself gently onto the river's shoulder. Why did you say yes? Ariti finally asked. To love, to loss, to returning when the world had broken you. Zamani's eyes glistened, but her voice was steady. Because I believed destiny was not a throne waiting for me. It was a path I had to clear myself, sometimes with tears, sometimes with laughter, always with love. And did it hurt? Ariti asked. Toba looked up. Yes, he said. But it was the kind of hurt that shapes rather than shatters. Ariti returned to her home weeks later, but she carried their words like seeds. She planted them in her village, with actions, not just tales, and slowly, change bloomed there too. And soon, other villages began sending messengers to Udolo. Not with gifts or tribute, but with questions: how did you heal? How did you build peace with nothing but your bare hands? And the people of Udolo would answer, not with proclamations, but with open doors, shared meals, and stories beneath starlight. When Zamani passed, the bells of Udolo did not toll with mourning, they sang with memory. Children wore white, not black. The river was lined with flowers. And the palace gates remained open, as she had left them. Toba lived a little while longer, long enough to teach one last child how to carve a stool, how to sit and listen, how to build a home that welcomed all. And when he finally joined her, the people did not crown a new ruler. Instead, they formed a circle around the stool he left behind. They placed a hand-carved heart upon it. They called it the Circle of Service, and every year, the community gathered there to tell new stories, welcome new voices, and remember the two who reminded them that greatness lies not in how high one rises, but in how deeply one loves. The tale of Zamani and Toba is still told wherever rivers flow and fires are kindled in the dark. And if you listen carefully, just after dusk, when the frogs begin their evening choir, you might hear the whispers of their love riding the wind. Because some legends are not etched in stone. They live in the way people choose to live after them. And that is the richest destiny of all.